So Sergey, I know that the kind of some of the traction that you're building is now spilling out from just what you would class as the kind of crypto native industry, as you would hope and expect through Oracle's bridging into the real world, and you're starting to gain a lot of adoption in an enterprise context. So how are you kind of cutting through with that audience? How are you convincing them that they need to be migrating workflows and anything else into this space?
Yeah, I mean, there's generally three categories of users when it comes to making a fully connected end-to-end secure contract. There's the native crypto users who want to give their end users guarantees that their contract is properly secured from what it's connected to the core, to whatever output system it has. Those divide between DeFi applications and applications that are dealing with crypto like Celsius and other systems that aren't fully smart contract based but are on track to that. Enterprises are in a slightly different situation where they didn't build everything with crypto connected to begin with. So they have an existing infrastructure that manages billions and billions of dollars. Their concerns are actually slightly different than the straight DeFi and the partially centralized applications that deal with cryptocurrency. Those partially centralized applications that deal with cryptocurrency, some of them are now growing into an enterprise-sized entity that uses oracles to provide additional guarantees. So some of those entities that started out in crypto but now have massively grown, they can use oracles to, for example, have better pricing. So they can show users that the pricing they had to settle some kind of futures contract or some lending for their crypto project that grew to a massive size can be improved on. So they can give more guarantees. So I'm seeing some of the crypto companies grow into real enterprises with real enterprise value because they have a huge user set with a lot of real value behind it. You know, Binance is a good example of that. They've grown massively and become a genuine, serious enterprise. Then there are enterprises who didn't start out in crypto and they're moving towards it. They basically need to connect to a lot of different chains. And some of them, sometimes that's geographically based. Sometimes that's just that their users, they're sometimes multinational, and having one middleware that allows their systems to interact with all the different environments in which they want to conduct operations. In sometimes transactions overlap between environments. That's been one of the main ideas, so that instead of integrating on a chain by chain base, they have a middleware that allows them to integrate with all the chains they want to utilize. And then the benefit there is that the chains that are integrated into Chainlink, they can get enterprise users onboarded much faster because the capacity to connect the ERP system or whatever automated API-driven system into the 4 or 5 chains that they want to use across their multinational set of different business lines suddenly becomes easier. One of the places we've seen this work very well is for data providers. So data providers don't want to connect and build applications for 15 chains. They don't want a blockchain team of 5 people for each chain. They want one middleware that allows them to sell to all the chains that they want to sell into. So I think it's crypto firms becoming real enterprises and getting additional security guarantees from oracles that their users appreciate because their users are sensitive to those types of guarantees. And then it's enterprises going towards blockchains and then having a middleware that allows them to connect to all the systems they want to connect to is a very efficient and kind of a faster way for them to get connected, which means they use those blockchains more. So it benefits them and it benefits the blockchains they plan to use.
Great. Sergey, we were kind of talking a little bit about composability there. And I guess, we've got a universe where there are lots of different stacks being built, some end to end, like near, some kind of more organically in a kind of bottom-up way. How can we increase interoperability between these networks and these technology stacks?
So I think the points that Ilya made are pretty much spot on, where you're trying to get to a world where smart contract developers can build at the speed and quality that web developers build. And therefore, they need this set of building blocks, which in the web world take the form of libraries, but in the decentralized world might take different forms. So that's one of those forms is what we work on oracles, where we essentially put these different oracles resources that represent discrete other resources in the traditional world, and we allow them to compose those building blocks with their contract. Now, the challenge that I see, generally speaking, with that and with all these other building blocks that people have is you're trying to marry security with a certain amount of usability by developers and then also by their end users. So you're trying to implement a system where you want developers to build an application using the same design patterns and at the same speed that web developers can build, but you're trying to put them in an environment, in a situation where the security dynamic they're engaging in as developers and the security dynamics that they're providing their users is at a much, much higher level. And it's really the work of infrastructure providers or technology providers or platform providers like Near, like Chainlink, in many cases like Binance, so people can get introduced to the concept of value being in these systems to make that interaction between security and speed and usability more fluid and easier for people to both do and understand. So in our case, what we've seen is that it's important that developers are able to build with a large breadth of different oracles that connect them to different resources. And the security guarantees of those oracles need to have a lot of depth, because the developers are concerned about the security of the application end to end, because the security of the application is now not just defined by the contract, but also by the oracle. And they want a large set of security guarantees overall for the contract end to end. But at the same time, we noticed that just like blockchains have block explorers or exchanges have, funds are SAFU or any number of other proofs that the system is working for the benefit of the users that the developer is building for, oracles also need to generate a lot of proof for users. So there's both of these challenges where you want to properly connect the developer's creation to the real world, but you also want to do it in a way that generates all the information that a developer would want to show a user to make them comfortable enough to put another $1 million, or in more advanced situations, $1 billion into one of these decentralized applications. And I think that's the challenge we all face when building this infrastructure for these developers, but then subsequently for their users as well. So there's a second order problem here where we have to make them be able to do this, but then we have to do it so well that they can prove to their users that they've done it correctly, that the security guarantees which they're seeking to provide are actually provided, which is actually a very impressive set of problems because it's more advanced than just speed or usability. It's marrying these two dynamics, which is a very complex, interesting problem.
Great. Well, look, I know we have a hard stop at 15 past, so in the danger of having to cut somebody off midway through, I'm going to end there. Also, let Sergey get to bed. I'm very grateful that everybody joined.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Bye.